Hello, everyone. My name is Michael. Today, I'm going to share with you one of the most traumatic and painful experiences of my life. This story happened when I was 35 years old, and it still breaks my heart when I think about it. I got married to Sarah 10 years ago. We fell in love in college and got married right after graduation. Sarah was the ideal wife I had dreamed of. She was sweet, intelligent, and valued family above all else. We had our first child, Emma, within 2 years of marriage, and our second, Ethan, 3 years later. Our family life seemed perfect. We picnicked in the park every weekend, took family trips on every vacation. Our neighbors envied us, and I believed this happiness would last forever. Another big pillar of my life was my best friend, David. We've been best friends since high school, and we were in the same class in college. He was the best man at my wedding, and he's also the godfather of my children. He's part of our family. He was single, but he spent a lot of time with my family. He loved my kids and often babysat for them. He and Sarah got along well, and we often went out to dinner or to the movies together. I felt very lucky to have him. But last year, I started to notice something was off. Sarah's behavior started to change a bit. She was sending and receiving texts late at night, and she suddenly had a lot of plans with friends. At first, I chalked it up to her having a more active social life. Then one day, I happened to look at Sarah's phone. A message with David caught my eye, and although it didn't seem like much, it made me feel uncomfortable for some reason. But I brushed it aside to assuage my misgivings. After all, David was my best friend, and Sarah was the person I trusted the most. A few weeks later, I was preparing for Emma's 8th birthday party. I tried to call David to ask for help, but he didn't pick up, and Sarah suddenly left, saying she had an emergency. When I arrived at his door, I saw Sarah's car and froze. With trembling hands, I knocked on the front door, but no one came out. That's when David's neighbor came up to me and said, "Michael, I noticed that your wife comes to David's house a lot." Hearing that, my world seemed to fall apart, but that was just the beginning. After returning home, I waited for Sarah and David. When I saw them walk in together, I felt an unbearable sense of anger and betrayal. But I realized that their expressions hinted at something. More than a simple affair. "Michael, there's something we need to talk about," Sarah said, her voice trembling. Sarah and David are still a part of my life. I couldn't completely cut them off because of Emma, but our relationship is now purely for Emma's sake. I've learned a lot from this experience. The importance of trust, the difficulty of forgiveness, and most of all, the meaning of true family. I realized that blood ties aren't everything. It reaffirmed how much I love Emma and how strong that love is. Now I'm in counseling and trying to get over this trauma. I've started a new life with my children, and I'm slowly stabilizing. Of course, there are still days that are difficult, but now I can see hope. Thank you, everyone, for listening to my story. While this extreme situation may not happen to everyone, we can all experience unexpected shocks and betrayals in our lives. When it does, remember you are not alone, and there is hope in any situation. I hope my story brings comfort to someone who has experienced something similar. And I hope it inspires everyone to value the people in their lives more and to build authentic relationships. And they spoke the shocking truth that would turn my life upside down. David opened his mouth. "Michael, I'm Emma's biological father." For a moment, my ears perked up. How could this be possible? Emma was clearly my daughter. Sarah continued to explain. "Before we got married, David and I had a relationship and I got pregnant, but we weren't ready. And I couldn't give the baby up, and you wanted to have a child, and we decided that you would raise her." I felt like I was going to collapse on the spot. Emma, the child I loved so much, my friend's child, and the two people I trusted the most were involved in all of this. From that moment on, my life was turned upside down. Sarah and David's betrayal, the shocking truth about Emma's birth, and the confusion about my own identity. It all came crashing down at once. I immediately filed for divorce from Sarah. We ended up in court fighting over custody of Emma, and David disappeared from my life completely. I never wanted to see him again, because he was once my best friend. The hardest part was deciding how to tell Emma the truth. How do you explain such a complicated situation to an 8-year-old? In the end, we decided to enlist the help of a professional and tell Emma the truth bit by bit. Now it's been a year since all of this happened. I still wake up sometimes wishing it was all a nightmare, but the reality hasn't changed, and I'm learning to live with it. Emma is still my daughter, The fact that I'm not her biological father hasn't changed our relationship. If anything, it has deepened our bond. Ethan is trying to understand this situation, and we are working through it together.